In this lecture, we'll see about 1D spatiotemporal variations in temperature using some simple geometries which can be used as an approximation for other complex geometries as well. The question again we are trying to ask is, we have a solid body kept in an environment. How long does this solid body take to reach the steady state temperature? Or it could be questions like, how long does it take to reach some intermediate temperature? Suppose you have something at 10 degrees and you're dipping it in liquid nitrogen. How long does it take for the temperature to dip to minus 10 degrees? So it could be any intermediate temperature. So you want to ask questions, you want answer questions like this. You could also have questions like, what is the total heat transferred, or in this entire period, or till a particular time, how much heat is transferred. So these are all engineering questions that you want to answer. It could also be, what is the heat flux at a given time. So to understand all these questions, we are going to pose some simple models. Why simple models? So models considered here, we have a plane wall. So there is a wall, and either side of which you can subject it to a constant temperature or convective boundary condition. So this is a plane wall in that sense. Then we have a semi-infinite wall, where one side there is a prescribed temperature and the other side is goes to infinity. So this is semi-infinite wall. We can also have an infinite cylinder. The length is infinite, but the radius is finite. Similarly, there is a sphere which is a finite radius but dipped in an infinite medium. All these problems, if you notice, there is only one variable, that is along which temperature can change. In the case of plane wall, there is no other length scale other than this. So the temperature can change only along this length. Similarly, in semi-infinite wall, because it's infinite in all the directions and just limited only here, there is only one uh, direction where temperature can change. Similarly, for the sphere, the cylinder and the sphere, there's only one direction in which temperature can change. It is same in the theta direction and it's the same in z direction. So the temperature is a function of one spatial direct coordinate and time. And since these equations are linear, we can use the separation of variables to obtain the solution. Many times these approximations, many of these problems are exactly solvable because they're neatly come in cylindrical coordinates, spherical coordinates, and Cartesian coordinates. The nice thing about this also is that using these solutions, we can also estimate questions that we asked previously, time it takes to cool down, or how much is the heat flux and so on, for other shapes. So instead of a sphere, suppose we have a cuboid, we simply approximate the sphere, cuboid by a sphere, and then what would have a sphere done at this. So you will get an approximate estimate. So even though if you don't have the exact model with you, you can get estimates of the time by using these models. So the general approach is as follows. We have a body which is at a temperature Ti, suddenly exposed to a different environment, which is at temperature T infinity, and there is some convective heat transfer happening in the outside. This material is characterized by a length scale L. It's got a thermal diffusivity alpha and thermal conductivity K. So these are the only parameters in the entire problem. So we can identify the dimensionless variables. If we identify theta as t minus t infinity, it's any time t. This is a variable in t minus t infinity at any time t. by Ti minus T is the initial uh, difference. Ti minus T infinity is the maximum difference that can happen. And T eventually will reach T infinity. The length scale could be some length scale could be X or R divided by the typical length scale of the geometry. It could be radius of the sphere, diameter of the uh, mm, cylinder, or thickness of the wall, and so on. And then we have the Fourier number. Fourier number we saw in the last lecture is a dimensionless time, which is simply alpha t by L square. We can use all these three and make the equation dimensionless. And the general form of the solution will be like this. Theta, which is the unknown variable, is a function of eta. This is the only variable here, spatial coordinate, and time. This is a dimensionless time, and a function of a BO number. So the BO number contains H, L by K. So resistance outside H by resistance inside K by L. So all the parameters that we have are all captured here. So the solution is always of the form theta is eta and Fourier number, Fourier dimensionless time, and the only parameter is the BO number. So this is the advantage of posing the equations in dimensionless form. Irrespective of any value of K, H, or L, if the BO number is same, the solution remains the same. It does not change. Similarly, if you use any value of length and alpha, it does not change. That the time at which you're asking for the solution does not change so long as the Fourier number is same. So the temperature at a given Fourier number, given BO number is always the same. In many cases, we get a series solution to the problem of the simple geometries, but there are approximate solutions available. So what is done is the first term in the series approximation is taken, and that gives a very good approximation to the exact solution. So since we are doing engineering problems, we don't want exact solutions, we want only approximate estimates. That is good enough, because anyway there are so many measurement errors and other errors that come. We just take a approximate value. So general form of this solution now becomes even simpler as two separate variables. So you have theta, dimensionless, then there are some constants C1 and zeta 1 are constants. Then you have one term which is purely a function of time. So zeta 1 is a constant, zeta 1 square is a constant, and Fourier number, which is a dimensionless time. Then you have another function which is zeta 1 times eta, where eta is your dimensionless spatial coordinate. So it becomes separated variables. You have time here and dimensionless space here. C1 and zeta 1 are constants, which are functions of the BO number. So given the geometry, the only thing that changes is f. So this function is different for the different simple geometries we saw. The time variation is the same, but the prefactor is different because the prefactor is function of the geometry as well as the BO number. For sphere, you'll have a different series of zeta 1. For plane wall, it is different, and so on. Cylinder, it is different, and so on. So once you know the BO number, there is a lookup table. You can just go and look up the corresponding zeta 1 and C1. Substitute it here, you will get the temperature. Once you know the temperature, if you want to find the heat flux, it is simply partial theta by partial eta. Okay, integrated over the entire thing, you will get the total heat flux. Integrated over time, you will get the total heat. So this way we can, so these are constants. So this way we can solve many such simple problems, or complicated problems where we approximate the geometry to be one of the simple geometries. So what are the solutions that are available for plane wall, semi-infinite wall, infinite cylinder, and sphere for different boundary conditions? when sudden convection is imposed, that is, you plunge a solid into a fluid, then we have solutions for all the cases. We have spatial temporal variation. We can get theta as a function of time and space. We can get the heat flux and total Q for all the cases. When constant temperature is there, the simple solution exists, the full solution exists only for the semi-infinite wall. So semi-infinite wall is a very simple case, which is similar to the solution that we saw at the beginning of last lecture. So spatial temperature variation for semi-infinite wall can be obtained for sudden convection or sudden change in the wall temperature or a sudden heat flux. Suppose you're turning on a IR lamp, how much time it takes to heat. So questions like that can be answered by this solution. Now, these things, in these cases, we have the expressions for the total heat flux. So we don't have the spatial temporal variation, but we have expressions for how the total heat flux changes with time. So this we have a time variation where you just ask for the flux at the surface. So that is available for all of them. So these are tables that are there in the textbook. Depending on the problem, we have to identify and model it as one of these things and then look up this table and find the total heat flux, which we will do in our tutorials. There is one other quantity of interest, that is the dimensionless heat flux. So dimensionless heat flux we introduced in 2D steady state convection problem where we had Q star SS, which is for steady state. The same thing can be defined for Q star at any time. So Q star at any time is given by Q surface flux L divided by K into time difference. So consider as an example a semi-infinite solid. Uh, if you solve those equations which was given here, semi-infinite solid wall, if you solve those equations, we can substitute values for Qs double prime there, and these are all constants which can be, you can divide them. So you will get the solution to be 1 by square root of Fourier number. Remember, Fourier number goes as time. So the Q star goes as 1 by square root of time. So what that means is that, like take a semi-infinite wall, you have a temperature. Suddenly you change the temperature to Ts. Inside it is Ti. So at very long distance from here, the temperature is Ti. Initially also it was Ti everywhere, but at time t equal to 0, as we suddenly jacked it up to Ts here. And how does that diffuse through the space? So at initially at time t equal to 0, it is just like this. And that at small t, then again it goes there. Then it's like this, then like this. And so at time t equal to infinity, it will be a complete flat line there. So once t becomes infinity, at a time becomes large time, what happens is that the slope here becomes 0, right? So q also becomes 0. So that's what you see by 1 by square root of t. So eventually the heat flux will go to 0. How does it go to 0 in time? It goes as 1 by square root of t. So here are some how different solids behave in time, the heat flux. So the semi-infinite solid shown here is this line here. This straight line shown here is a semi-infinite solid which goes as 1 by square root of t or 1 by square root of Fourier number. So this is a square root of Fourier number. So notice that this is in log scale. So this is log and this is also log. So 1 by square root of t means t power minus 1 by 2. That is, if you move 1 on x-axis, if you move 2 on x-axis, you will be moving 1 on y-axis. So So you can see quickly here that from it goes from 100 to 10 in 2 units. So that essentially means this goes as 1 by square root of t. So this line represents the solid wall, which goes to only at infinite time, this will, the temperature will reach the steady state temperature, or the Q will reach 0. Q star will reach 0. Now compare other materials like solid, other shapes, solid, infinite cylinder, plane wall. All of them initially are the same as 1 by square root of t, but then suddenly they dip, right? Let's understand this quickly. Why does every shape, irrespective of their shape, have the same behavior? What it means is this. So let us compare a sphere with a semi-infinite wall. At very small times, you subjecting outside to some Ts, inside is Ti. At very small time, the curvature is not seen at all, and therefore this length is not seen. So if you sit here, it is like you're standing on earth. You, as a person standing on earth, you see a flat surface, and for you the earth is a semi-infinite thing. It is like earth, 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 and there is no, you don't feel the curvature at all. So initially, for irrespective of any shape, the initial time, it is like a semi-infinite object. So the temperature, or the Q star, dimensionless Q star, uh, goes as 1 over square root of t, or 1 over square root of Fourier number. Now notice that Fourier number is alpha t by L square. Now alpha t by L square, we saw that if it is order 1, then that is the time it takes for heat to completely diffuse. So you notice here that when Fourier number is order 1, then the temperature or becomes equal to the outside temperature, or the heat flux becomes 0. So for all these finite size objects, you notice that when Fourier number is order 1, you see order 1 means from here to here, that is 0.3 to 3. So this, when Fourier number is order 1, the temperature reaches steady state, or Q star reaches 0. So to summarize, we saw spatiotemporal variation of temperature in 1D, and it is possible to get analytical solutions and approximate solutions for 3 or 4 geometries: plane wall, semi-infinite wall, infinite cylinder, and sphere. And we can find the, using all these models, we can find the time it takes to reach steady state, or the surface flux, which are all very good quantities useful for engineering approximations. Thank you.